Our last point is abnormal molar mass, Van 1/2 factor, symbol is I. Now, what is abnormal molar mass? Suppose I am going to prepare sodium chloride solution. Now, initially 1 mole of sodium chloride is added to water, then we will get 2 moles of ions, because NaCl is a polar compound. After addition of this compound to water, it dissociates into 2 ions. Now, here one mole of sodium chloride you are taking initially. So, after addition of NaCl to water, it dissociates to give 1 mole of Na plus ions and 1 mole of Cl minus ions. Total together 2 moles of ions you are getting. Now, here we are considering only 1 mole of sodium chloride. Theoretically, 1 mole of sodium chloride you are taking. That means 1 mole of particles. But experimentally, we are getting 2 moles of particles here. That means there is a difference between theoretical value to experimental value. Why this occurs here? Because sodium chloride undergoes dissociation when it is added to water. Now, for example, molar mass of sodium chloride is 58.5, or you can say formula weight. After addition of NaCl to water, you are getting 2 particles here. Mass of first particle, that is sodium ion, is 23 and chloride ion is 35.5. That means during dissociation of sodium chloride, number of particles of solute increases, but molar mass decreases. The initial molar mass, this is also called normal molar mass, is 58.5 grams, but the changed molar mass is either 23 or 35.5 grams. That means during dissociation of any solute, number of particles increases but molar mass decreases. We know that what is a colligative property? The property that depends on number of particles of solute is called colligative property. That means indirectly, as dissociation of solute increases, number of particles of solute increases, the value of colligative property also increases. Now, here this is also called abnormal molar mass. What is abnormal molar mass? Initially, molar mass is 58.5 grams. After dissociation, this molar mass is less than 58.5 grams. Now, here come to another example. For example, 2 moles of acetic acid is added to benzene, then this acetic acid undergoes dimerization. That means this is called association. This is during dissociation and this is during association. Here initially 2 moles of solute you are taking and it is added to benzene. Here both undergo association, then you are getting 1 mole of molecules only, or 1 mole of particles. That means during dissociation number of particles increases, and during association number of particles decreases. Now here molar mass of acetic acid is 60, but whereas after association molar mass is 120. Now here before association 60, after association you are getting 120. That means as molar mass increases, number of particles decreases. Here number of particles are 2 moles, after association you are getting 1 mole. That means this is normal molar mass and this is abnormal molar mass. So that means when we have to discuss this abnormal molar mass point, if any solute undergoes dissociation or association, then only we have to discuss this point, otherwise not required. For example, urea is added to water, there is no dissociation or association of urea, that is why no change in molar mass or no change in the number of molecules also or number of particles also. Now here come to the point, we have a formula for abnormal molar mass. That formula is given by a scientist called Van Hoff, that is why this is called Van Hoff factor, symbol is small I. So what is Van Hoff factor I regarding molar mass of the solute? Formula is normal molar mass divided by abnormal molar mass. This we can write as another form, that is, here normal means theoretical value, or you can say calculated value. That means calculated molar mass divided by observed molar mass. Now I will repeat, normal molar mass is theoretical value, that is why this is written as calculated molar mass. Abnormal molar mass is nothing but experimental molar mass or practical molar mass, that is called observed molar mass. Now this formula we can write it as I is equal to, actually this formula regarding molar mass of the solute, but our next formula is regarding colligative property. Here I is equal to observed colligative property divided by calculated colligative property. Now see, this is regarding molar mass of the solute and this is colligative property. Why we are reversing these two? As we know that colligative property is inversely proportional to molar mass, that is why we are taking this formula in reverse case. Now finally, by considering all these formulae, finally we can write a simple formula, that is I is equal to number of moles of particles after association or dissociation divided by number of moles of particles before association or dissociation. This is a simple formula to identify Van Hoff factor. Now here consider this formula once again. Number of moles of particles after association or dissociation means this is experimental value. This is observed value. Number of moles of particles before association or dissociation is nothing but this is calculated value or theoretical value. So Van Hoff factor I is equal to number of particles after association or dissociation divided by number of particles before association or dissociation. Now I am taking three cases here. If any solute is added to solvent, if there is no dissociation or association, then what is I value? Now for example, I am taking glucose or urea. If these are added to water, there is no dissociation or association. That's why what is Van Hoff factor I here? From formula, number of particles after association or dissociation, that means here no association or dissociation. Number of particles after association or no association or dissociation here, that's why I am writing one particle or one mole of particles you can say. Before addition also one. Now actually after addition 1, before addition also 1, that's why here I value is 1. You remember, if any solute is added to solvent, if there is no dissociation or association, then its I value is 1. If I value is 1, then there is no change in the value of colligative property. Now come to second case. If any solute is added to solvent, if it undergoes dissociation, then number of particles increases, colligative property also increases. For example, sodium chloride, potassium chloride. If sodium chloride is added to a suitable solvent, then you are getting 2 moles of ions here. Now what is Van Hoff factor I? The number of particles after dissociation are 2, number of particles before dissociation 1, that's why I value is 2 here. As I value increases, then there is a change in the colligative property also. As I value increases, value of colligative property also increases. Come to third condition here. If a solute is added to solvent, if that solute undergoes association, for example dimerization. What is dimerization? Here 2 moles of particles undergo association gives 1 mole of particles. So as we know, 2 moles of acetic acid undergoes association to give a dimer. Here number of particles before association 2, after association 1. That's why here Van Hoff factor is I is equal to number of particles after association 1 and number of particles before association 2, that's why here I value is 1 by 2. So during dimerization, number of particles decreased to 1 by 2. Suppose for trimerization it becomes 1 by 3, tetramerization 1 by 4. So during association number of particles decreases, value of colligative property also decreases. Now here so for example, consider these are strong electrolytes, then these are the conditions we have to identify. For strong electrolytes, number of particles formed after dissociation is I. Number of particles formed after association, from there you can identify I. Here no association or dissociation, but there is a special point for weak electrolytes. That's why I am taking our next point as relation between Van Hoff factor I and degree of dissociation alpha. What is degree of dissociation here? Generally, if you take any strong electrolyte, that strong electrolyte undergoes 100% dissociation. So the percentage degree of dissociation is 100. Then degree of dissociation alpha is equal to 1. Now always remember, degree of dissociation is exactly 1 for given strong electrolyte. If weak electrolyte is taken, percentage degree of dissociation is less than 100, that's why alpha is less than 1 here. What is alpha? Degree of dissociation. This is the main difference between strong electrolyte and weak electrolyte. I'll repeat, we have only two values for degree of dissociation. For strong electrolytes that is 1, weak electrolytes less than 1. Now from here, if strong electrolyte is given or weak electrolyte is given, how to calculate Van Hoff factor I? There is a formula for Van Hoff factor here, that is 1 plus n minus 1 into alpha. This is for dissociation. So Van Hoff factor I is equal to 1 plus n minus 1 into alpha. This is the relation between Van Hoff factor and degree of dissociation. Now here I is Van Hoff factor, alpha is degree of dissociation, and n is number of particles formed after dissociation. Remember, number of particles formed after dissociation. Now here any strong electrolyte is given. For any strong electrolyte, alpha is 1, then I is equal to n. If weak electrolyte is given, definitely alpha value is less than 1. For example, alpha is 0.2. Then what is I here? 1 plus n minus 1 into 0.2. Once again, n is number of possible particles after dissociation. Now, by using this formula, we can calculate I for both strong electrolytes as well as weak electrolytes. Especially this formula is designed for weak electrolytes, because here degree of dissociation is less than 1. Now, we can modify this formula as degree of dissociation alpha is equal to I minus 1 by n minus 1. So, this is the relation between 1/2 factor I and degree of dissociation during dissociation. Suppose for any given association, then what we have to do? I is equal to 1 plus 1 by n minus 1 into alpha. Here 1 by n. N is nothing but number of particles associated. For example, during dimerization n is 2. During trimerization n is 3. What is alpha here? Alpha is degree of association. This is degree of association. Now, if alpha value is given and if you know n, then easily you can calculate I for association. Now, this formula we can write as degree of dissociation alpha is equal to I minus 1 by 1 by n minus 1. Or you can write alpha is equal to 1 minus I divided by 1 minus 1 by n. So, both are same here. Now, from this particular concept, what are the things we have to do? I will explain. Suppose urea is given. What is its 1/2 factor? 1. If I is equal to 1, then there is no dissociation or association. Sulfuric acid is given. Generally we know sulfuric acid is strong electrolyte and it dissociates to give 2 moles of H plus ions, 1 sulfate ion. Now after dissociation, total how many particles we are getting? 3. Now here for example, I is equal to 1 plus n minus 1 into alpha. I is equal to 1 plus how many particles after dissociation? 3 minus 1. Here alpha is equal to 1 because this is strong electrolyte. So here you will get a doubt. Sir, how to recognize strong electrolytes? If alpha value is 1 or if alpha value is not given, consider that as strong electrolyte. I will repeat, if alpha is 1, if alpha is not given in the problem, consider or assume that given electrolyte as strong electrolyte, and here simply you can say I is equal to n, that is I is equal to 3 here. So, for any strong electrolyte, no need of alpha here. That is why I is equal to n. Other example is, suppose Hx is given. It dissociates to give H plus and X minus. After dissociation, we are getting 2 particles or 2 moles of particles. Here degree of dissociation is 0.2. So this is the given problem. Here degree of dissociation is 0.2, that means this is less than 1. If alpha value is less than 1, definitely this is considered as weak electrolyte. Then what is I here? I is equal to 1 plus n minus 1 into alpha. That is equal to 1 plus how many particles possible here? 2 minus 1 and alpha is 0.2. Finally, I is equal to, this is 2 minus 1, 1 into 0.2, 0.2, 0.2 plus 1, 1.2 is I value. Suppose for the same electrolyte, if alpha value is not given, then assume that as strong electrolyte, then this is I value. If alpha is not given, then I is equal to N. Now, I will discuss so many other examples. Sodium sulfate is given. What is its Van Hoff factor? So, I is equal to 3 because during dissociation you will get 2 moles of sodium ions and 1 mole of sulfate ion. So, total number of moles of particles are 3 and I is also equal to 3 because this is strong electrolyte. How do you know? Because alpha is not given here. If alpha is given as 1 also, proceed this formula in the same manner. Other example, what is I value for sodium chloride? Here number of particles after dissociation 2, that's why I is equal to 2. Now other one, H3PO4 orthophosphoric acid. So here I is equal to, during dissociation 3 moles of H plus ions, other one is phosphate ion, total number of ions are 4 here, that's why I is equal to 4. So when we have to write this complete formula, if alpha is less than 1, then only we have to take this, otherwise not required. That means this formula is more useful for weak electrolytes. So follow the same rule for association also. Now finally, if I is equal to 1, that means there is no dissociation or association. If I is greater than 1, that means here solute undergoes dissociation, then value of colligative property increases. Third condition is, if I value is less than 1, then here solute undergoes association. Here value of colligative property decreases. Here, okay, sir, we got to know how to calculate Van Hoff factor I. After getting Van Hoff factor I, what we have to do? Now see all these 4 colligative properties once. If any solute undergoes dissociation, number of particles increases, I value also increases, the value of colligative property also increases. That's why I am going to multiply colligative property with Van Hoff factor. Then finally you will get absolute value of colligative property, the exact value of colligative property, that is experimental value. Now see this first formula, this is relative lowering of vapor pressure. As we know that all the colligative properties are directly proportional to number of particles of solute. As solute undergoes dissociation, number of particles increases, I value increases, overall colligative property also increases. Suppose if any solute undergoes association, then number of particles decreases, I value decreases, then value of colligative property also decreases. Suppose for given solute, for example urea or glucose, there is no dissociation or association, that's why no change in the number of particles of solute. That's why I is equal to 1. That's why there is no change in the value of colligative property. So from here onwards, while writing any colligative property, you need to multiply that with Van Hoff factor. Then only we will get the value of colligative property originally. Now see all these 4 formulae, here all are multiplied with 1/2 factor I. For PU syllabus or entrance examination, while writing any colligative property, don't miss this 1/2 factor I, otherwise you won't get exact answer.